Oh my god.
That was terrible, bro.
Well, we're about to schedule another day. Do this one more time.
Man, imagine even trying like, because a lot of times people like they reacting to like the article. So
Uh-huh.
like your first reaction to something versus your second, just like, oh yeah, the
Yeah,
shoes.
yeah, yeah.
It ain't gonna hit the same.
Yeah, second reaction from the top. That's funny. That's
What's going
funny.
on with you, G?
Chilling, brother. It's good to finally speak with you and chop it up. I know I've been following you for a while, so
I'm about to
I'm
say
a
we've
big
been mutuals for a minute, bro.
yeah, bro. I'm a big fan of
Long
your
time.
content. I think your shit is sick. So um, obviously appreciate your creativity and yeah, just a big fan of the stuff that you post. So yeah, brother. It's good to meet you. Good to speak to you.
Man, most def, most def. So this is actually let me just go ahead and knock out the intro. All right, what's
Yeah.
going on, man? It's your boy Kloth, and I'm back with another video, man. Look, if I'm not starting where I'm not going nowhere. And this is gonna be another segment of Kloth Talk. Now, again, Kloth Talk is where I grab the article titles from Hypebeast, Complex, and it's all talking about sneakers, fashion, all that jazz that I love. And I bring people on here who have those same passions. But this episode gonna be a little different. It ain't gonna be the same. This is gonna be the first time we don't do any articles. I think we have a very special guest who has some great insight on a lot of the stuff that we love, which is sneakers. So I definitely want to just give that, turn it over to you now to trying to give like your introduction of who you are.
Bet. Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me on. Like I was saying in the beginning, big fan of your work and everything that you post. I think you do a great job of curating everything and being super creative. So you're one of the ones that really stand out in the industry. So yeah, my name is Jordan Johnson. I'm working at New Balance right now as a product manager on the collaborations team. I've been at New Balance since 2018. And started on the collaboration team in 2020. So yeah, been there ever since. I work on mainly entertainment based things. So a lot of stuff you see come out with Action Bronson's, Jaden Smith, Jack Harlow, Salehi. Even I kind of manage those programs, and then a little bit of retail too. So yeah.
You got your hands in a lot. It don't sound like it's just like a simple job. You got your hands in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, man. You got to be. We're a small but mighty team at New Balance, so a lot of us touch a different, a wide array of categories, wide array of partners. So we do what we can to get the job done. So and there's no shortage of great partners to work with, and everybody's great to be around and work for. So wherever we can step in and be helpful, we do that.
So like I said earlier, this is definitely going to be a different setup. We're not going to have any topics. We're just going to go more into, New Balance. I think New Balance is at the forefront of just sneakers in general. And I remember rocking New Balances. Let me tell you, my mama used to go to Ross. When we was going back to school shopping, she used to go to Ross. I used to get 2 pairs of New Balances for like $60 in Ross.
Yep.
So everybody that's hopping on the wave now, I'm like, it's just crazy now because like, New Balances were the shoes that people would joke on you if you had. And it was like, I went from seeing that being like a joke shoe to now you can't name anybody who really loves sneakers that doesn't have a single pair of New Balances in their closet. So I think that's great that we're going to bypass the articles because I feel like you have some insight that people want to hear. But before we get into that, I definitely want to give the people opportunity just to know more about you, your story. How'd you get into sneakers? How'd you get into working at New Balance? Kind of just like walking back through that.
Yeah. So, my name is Jordan Johnson. So I was named after a very famous basketball player. Back in 1995, I was born in Denver, Colorado. So my pops was always just a big fan of, sportswear and sports in general. So, I kind of took on the namesake and grew up around sports and like I said, sneakers and that whole culture really before it was a thing. My pops has been collecting shoes since 1985 and before that. So I just grew up all the time with, shoes around the house, whether it was him buying them or him buying them for us, really. Like me and all my brothers, I have 4 brothers. And my dad, every Christmas is just hooking everybody up with, the latest shoes and all the latest gear. And We'd always talk about, going to school and teachers calling us the best dressed, and, like those compliments every day of, oh, your kids are just so well put together, and, they have such great style. And, so we kind of took to that early and just saw what that did for people around you, being well kept and, putting yourself together, and what kind of like energy that brings. So I think I always naturally gravitated towards that growing up. And as a result, it's kind of steered me towards the footwear lane. But I really was like, I say this to say, like, my journey was kind of chosen for me. I'm a big believer in faith, and what happens for a reason. And so with me being born into, the world I was born into, with the passion that my dad had, me being a huge daddy's boy, I have both my mom and my dad in my life, but, my mom will even tell you, like, I'm a big daddy's boy. So, all his favorite sports teams, everything I just kind of took on. So I always wanted to be like him and model myself after him. So my father was also a fine artist. So growing up, he used to do like hyper realistic portraits of people, family members, and, celebrities and stuff like that. So he would just draw these hyper realistic drawings, and ended up going to school and got a full ride for art school for doing that. So, growing up again with seeing portraits on the wall and all this high end art, I wanted to be just like that in terms of the drawing space. So, I started out trying to draw people, thinking that I could be as good as him. This was probably around 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old. And I quickly realized how much practice and that takes to be able to get to that level. And so I pretty much just thought, okay, what can I do that my pops can't do, or just doesn't draw? Like, what can I draw that he's not good at drawing, so that when I still show this stuff to my parents, they could be like, oh, that's great. Or, like, I could be encouraged by it, as opposed to, my dad, not that he was hard on me. Like, obviously your parents want the best for you. So if I did draw a portrait of a person or something, he's always going to be like, oh, this is good, but you should work on this, So I'm like, what can I do so that he don't tell me that no more? Just as a kid, you want it to be perfect. And obviously as you get older, you realize the benefit in having critiques and stuff like that. But at the time, I'm just like, yo, what can I draw that I can show them and they could just be like, wow, this is great. So I started with cars because, it's also a mutual passion. I love cars and just, vehicles. I started drawing like old schools, like Chevelles and stuff like that, trying to. And so I realized that it's pretty much like architecture. Like, you got to have a ruler, you got to have a protractor, you got to have all those sort of, like, it's like drawing a building. Like, it's like a technical drawing. It's not really like a free form, just like, So I think that kind of discouraged me as well early on. And I was like, okay, this is a little crazy. So then I eventually gravitated towards sneakers. So the way I did that was, like I said, my pops and my moms were always buying me, sneakers and stuff for Christmas and birthdays and things like that. So whenever I get a new pair of shoes, I would put them up like on the shelf, like at an eye level at my desk, my drawing desk, and I would draw them like a still life, almost like a vase of flowers or something like that, or a bowl of fruit. I would draw it just like that, like, as any artist would draw a still life. And I was doing that for, I want to say, at least 6 months to a year. And then naturally from that, drawing the Mellows and stuff. From Denver, Colorado. So big Nuggets fan. So, Melo was the premier athlete there, and he had the contract with Jordan Brand. And so, a lot of the stuff I was drawing his early models. But then after that came me drawing, all the shoes from 1 through, what was that? It was 2009 at the time, I think it was. And just drawing them, each color, the OG colorways, and putting them up on my wall, just to do as a hobby. Like, it was like a summer activity that I just enjoyed doing. And so I was, just doing that for fun, even drawing some of the fake colorways and, like, not even realizing that they weren't the real colorways. And I'm like, oh, this black and red joint is fire. I don't know why they didn't do this one, but I'm about to draw this. So I put them up, and then, I was just doing it for fun. And eventually my dad was a VIP shopper down at the Nike store in Denver. And before it was called Nike store, and it was called Nike Town originally. And he was like I said, a VIP shopper. So they used to invite people out to special events, special VIP events. And one time Dwayne Edwards had came down. And a lot of people don't know, you can Google Dwayne now, but he'll pop up and you'll see all the work that he's done. But at the time, he was the director for Jordan Brand footwear, and was designing all the Mellows and everything like that at the time. So this was Melo's first signature shoe, the 1.5. And they had a release event for it downtown Denver. My dad was invited. He went down and pretty much met Dwayne at the party. My dad's super outgoing, just, you know, likes to talk and, you know, just chop it up with people, and is very big on connecting. So just kind of talked to him and said, you know, I've been collecting sneakers my whole life. He also did the song Be Like Mike for Nike back with that Gatorade campaign in early 90s. So he helped write that song, which is telling him about that. And then towards the end of his conversation was like, yeah, my son draws sneakers for fun. Like, you know, he just does them and puts them up on his wall. And Dwayne was like, oh, really? Like, you know, he could make that a career if he wanted to make a career out of that. And so at this time, my dad pretty much comes home the next day and tells me he met this guy, and you know, he works at Jordan Brand, and he would love to mentor me and help me make this into a career if I wanted to. I didn't know it was a thing at first, Greg. I was like, I thought Michael Jordan like made his own shoes. I didn't know that was.
I love that.
I didn't know, like, how it worked. Like, I think, and even talking to people now in 2022 and 23, like, they were telling me, like, before they got to their brands, like, they were in college and didn't even know that this job existed. So a lot of people still don't know. Like, you just don't think about how it gets made, or like, it's just not front of mind. So until someone kind of brings it to you and makes it present, then you kind of don't really look at it until that. So my dad came on the next day and was like, yo, would you want to be mentored? I'm like, yeah, like what? So pretty much how that started was I took like the drawings on my wall, sent them over to Dwayne in Beaverton. And then he would send them back to me with some templates, like these lateral view templates, top view templates, bottom views, backs, and pretty much was like, yo, trace all of your drawings, because my proportions, if anybody tried to draw a shoe, your proportions are never great when you first start. If you do like have great proportions when you first start drawing shoes, you're a savant. Like, you might be Leonardo da Vinci or something, because that is not like the norm for any shoe designer. Most shoe designers never have the right proportions early on. So that was his biggest thing when it comes to teaching, is making sure your proportions are right, making sure everything's as accurate as it can be, because it just makes it easier on the rest of the triads, you know, development, material team, everybody, to just kind of visualize things, because a lot of people can't visualize something in 2D becoming real. So make sure I was honing in on my proportions. And so practice that day after day for about, I want to say 6 to 8 months again, sending them back and forth. I would send him drawings, he send me back notes, send him drawings, send me back notes, started scanning stuff. And so he was doing that for me for, again, that 6 to 8 months. And then eventually he asked if I wanted to come visit the campus. And I went out there with my pops, and bro, I was like, I knew it was like Disney World. Like, I was like, yo, this is like Disney World for sneakers. Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I think I was 13 at the time. And I knew from that point on, I was like, yo, I want to be in footwear industry. Like, this is it for me. I know it. Like, I felt it in my soul and my spirit. I was like, this is it. Like, I know this is it. This feels like the right thing. So after that point, Dwayne ended up starting a school called Pensole Design Academy. It's really big now. Obviously, it started through the University of Oregon. And this was when he had, you know, set up the opportunity to me at that time to say, you know, I'm starting this school. He was still working at the brand at the time, but was doing this as a side project. It's going to be during the summer. It's a 3-week intensive course. You pretty much learn the whole ins and outs behind designing a shoe, from brief initiation to storytelling, concepting, sketching, all the way to, you know, final presentation stage, where people from around the brands in the state will come around, and it's almost like a science fair sort of affair where everybody comes around. You get to pitch your project, tell them how you got to this point, and pretty much have your work displayed, and also your brand displayed, and your brand is yourself. So meeting all these people from around the industry, establishing these connections, is super invaluable. And so I took the first ever class in 2010. If you look at that class and that roster, it's actually insane. Like, all the people that have gone on to be at other brands, start their own brands, but just the success rate of people that come out of Pensole is phenomenal, because it really prepares you the best way you can be prepared for the real world of designing. Like, you know, you're treated like a professional. Deadlines are professional deadlines. You got to be on time. If you're not on time, there's consequences. You know, it's like the real world. So it's preparing you for that space that you'll be in. So once people do get an opportunity and get into the real world, it's almost like, you know, oh, I've been prepared for this. This is easier than Pensole. So, you know, we was pushing hard nights, you know, maybe staying up from we get into the office at like 9 o'clock, the school at 9 o'clock. And a lot of us don't leave until 10:30 p.m. So we're putting in 12-hour plus days every day for 3 weeks straight. Sometimes you stay up all night, pull all-nighters. And that's just how the industry is. That's real life. Like even when you're working in the industry, you have to pull some all-nighters. So it really prepared us and sharpened us for it. So after that first pencil class in 2010, I was only 15. So I had to go out there with my pops. I was like pretty much being chaperoned by him. And then there was one other kid that was the same age as me. You might know him, Jacob Rochester. So he took the first ever class. I'll send you his Instagram after this, but you'll probably see some of his art. But he was also in that first class. And, it was pretty much like any age goes. Like you could be from 15 to 45. Like there were some people that were in there that were working in the automotive industry that wanted to make a career shift. And they were like, yeah, I'll, let me give my shot at this footwear thing because I want to switch industry. So it was a wide array of people from all over the world. It was really like my first, I would say, like before I gone to college, like real global experience to meeting people from around different places and different cultures and finally get to get outside my bubble. So beyond just learning the footwear aspect, the cultural aspect of meeting people from around the world was invaluable as well. Like just seeing how other people think, what they're into, the music they listen to, like that type of stuff is unbelievable to like experience, and especially at that young age. So I remember like learning about MF Doom and all these different people for the first time. Yeah, like I'm like, yo, like listen to that type of rap, and I'm like, yo, like this is crazy. I never heard nothing like this before. So yeah, that experience was amazing. Yeah, there we go.
I got that on standby.
There we go. So yeah, one of the legends. So that was a great opportunity. And then me being 15 at that time gave me a really crazy runway for me to be able to be prepared to get into the industry. A lot of people end up taking pencil or find these alternative opportunities after college or after school. Like it's not really something that's integrated into their life as they're going through school. So for me, after that first class in 2010, I took another pencil class in 2011 through Converse and Nike, and ended up winning that competition, getting a bunch of different prizes, which really helped me take my design ability to the next level. So it came with, a MacBook Pro, a Cintiq tablet, one of those ones that you draw on, like the digital tablets. So I was like fully prepared, fully equipped. I was like, all right, now I have no excuses. Like I got to really, you know what I mean? Like I got all the tools that all the big boys have. So it's on now. So that was in 2011 and 2013 was another class I did with the Magic Trade Show and Mesho One, which is another program connected with Pencil. 2014 did one with A6. 2015 I did I skipped after 2015. I skipped and then didn't do another class until 2017 class with New Balance. So the way that came about was after school. So I went to school for advertising, and the reason being was that whole time before that I was working retail, at a bunch of different places, like Foot Locker, Foot Action, just as a sales rep, as like a side job at school. And so I was learning the whole retail side of the business, learning how, consumers shop, what they look for, learning that most consumers come in and want the shoe, but not really want the t-shirt to go with the shoe and all the stuff they try to get you to upsell, like, sneaker cleaner and stuff like that. Most consumers are just coming in to buy the shoe. Like they're not coming to do all the extra stuff. So learning those habits, but then learning the people that do want to do stuff like that do want, I do want to match the shoe with some people buy straight off the mannequin. And I'm like, dang, it's just a crazy consumer that, you know what I mean? Like some people will do that, some people won't, but just learning those habits was super useful. So doing that off and on for 5 years during school kind of taught me that side of the business. And then while me taking the pencil class taught me the design side, I really wanted to learn the marketing side and how to sell the product, how to push the product to the consumer. And so for that reason, I went to the University of Colorado Boulder and majored in advertising. So I thought that would really give me some insight into, like I said, like marketing and developing and creating a message and story around a product to make the consumer want it. So took that for 4 years, got my bachelor's at Boulder. And then quickly after that, I actually interned at an advertising agency in Boulder. I was doing SEO, which is search engine optimization. And I had like a 3-month internship that could have turned full time that I didn't end up going with. I think I just realized during that time that this was something that I wasn't passionate about. And I felt like if there's any time for me to chase my dream, like while, in any time in life, it's definitely at this time. I have no kids. I didn't have any wife. Like I had no real responsibilities at this point. So I'm like, yo, the time to do it is now. So let me take this quick, intermission between this internship and whatever else is in the future and really try to chase my dream. So shout out to my parents and my family, because I got a strong support system around me that allowed me to leave that, internship and have a roof over my head at home, be able to really figure my stuff out at that time and just really grind for the next 6 to 7 months to find something. So I always tell people like that was probably the hardest time of my life. I feel like I've had a great life, so that's not saying much. Really easy life, so that's not really saying much. But just that in between point of not knowing what to do, not knowing where my career was going, and just being stressed out about it, and just I want to be in this, but what am I going to do? I might have to end up working for the government. Like, oh, this like the things. Yeah, I don't want to do this. I know I don't want to do this. So thankfully, this is where relationships and establishing that type of communication with your mentors is very important, and finding yourself a mentor is very important, because most of your opportunities is going to come from someone else. Like you can do all you want, to try to do things on your own. Sometimes it works out, but most times you're going to need help from somebody else that is in it or is in the position to offer you something of an opportunity. So luckily at this time, we were able to reach out to Dwayne and, pretty much say, is there anything you can do? I don't know if there's anybody hiring around any other brands. Like what opportunities do you think that would make sense for me at this point? And luckily there was a pencil class coming up in February with New Balance. It was taking place in Boston. This was in 2017, February. It was taking place in Boston. We fly out there for the same amount, 3 weeks. But the difference with this versus the other classes I've taken were in Portland at Dwayne's brick and mortar school. Now it's in the university or in Detroit, his brick and mortar school, but originally it was in Oregon. So we would always go there and go in and out of the class or in and out of the building in downtown Portland. And so this was the first time like we would go to the brand. So we were treated like literally like employees. We showed up there the first day. We were in our hotels. We get shuttled to the office every morning. We had little badges that we would scan in, go up there just like professionals. And we did that for 3 weeks straight. And I really loved that experience, because you really got to feel like, a real employee, like, getting up at a certain time, commuting, having to deal with traffic. It's winter time. So like you really got that true Boston experience of like, oh, this is what it's going to be like if I work here. So did that for 3 weeks. And then we had the big, presentation at the end of it, like we always do. And, they kind of picked these winners of like first, second, third place for each category: design, apparel, material, whatever. And I was in the design category. I didn't place at all. Like there was like the top 3. I was not the top 3 designer. I don't even know if I was top 5. But what I will say, and this is kind of the real prize at the end of it, was the people that got brought on for apprenticeships, which was a 1-year internship paid on a team of their choosing. But the way I was, explained after the class was over was the New Balance team wanted to bring me back mainly off of the strength of my passion, energy, and just positive attitude around the whole program. And I think that, they explained it as it radiated, and they just really wanted to keep that energy going and keep that, excitement going for the intern group, but then also the extended, full-time employees. And so I took that as my opportunity to be like, and it was a color and design material or a color design material role. So it wasn't, the traditional footwear design role, but hey, I didn't care. I was like, yo, I need to
you take what you can get. You take what you can get and you make the for real.
Like, this is a great opportunity regardless. So I'm going to take this and run with it. And so that's exactly what I did. I had about a year in that internship role. And then a full-time role had opened up on the lifestyle team, which I applied for probably 2 months before my internship was over. And, New Balance has 2 different head offices. There's one in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and there's one in Brighton. So when I was applying for it was in Brighton. So I ended up getting that role, thankfully, by the grace of God, and started that role in 2018, and then worked in that role for about a year and some change until I switched over from design to product management. So So yeah, so that's where I'm at now. I don't know if we get into that story, but yeah, I wanted to give a break because I know I've been talking for a minute. So
nah. Look, trust me. I was like low key worried because like usually like the article portion is like where there's like obviously when people talk about their experiences, that's pretty long, but I feel like the article usually fills space too. And I was like, dang, I don't know how long this is gonna be. But like I have no questions because you explained it. Like you gave time periods, you gave dates, you gave the transition from when you started to how you got the job. I think that was perfect.
Okay.
And I think what's so dope about, so I feel like people always want to like, interview, the biggest names in like footwear, or like the Kanyes of the world, or like the Salehis of the world. Like they always want to interview them, but it's like they're, like you mentioned, like I'm sure they are a part of it a lot. They're a part of it, but they don't make up the entire thing. And there's so many people who are a part of that to bring something to life. And I think it's dope because I'm mutuals with, people like you, or I'm mutuals with people who are doing dope things. They're a part of these teams, but they're not the head name that people would just automatically recognize. Right. So I think it's dope, just like you telling your story, you being a part of that pencil, you being a part of the first class, and just like that transition in general is just crazy to me, like how that all worked out. So yeah, that was good. So we made it. So we are here at New Balance. Again, like I mentioned earlier, New Balance was a shoe that people got ragged on for. Now it's a shoe that everybody rock. They got multiple different silhouettes, multiple different collabs. So I'm gonna give you my perception, and then you can go into more about how it was and when that boom really took off. So for me, again, I was rocking New Balances back when I was in middle school, high school, always had a pair of New Balances. I didn't really see it take off fully to where like, I'm like, everybody rocking New Balances now, until the 550s hit. When those AOD 550s hit, the green, the red, and the what was it, 2 colorways, or was it only 3 at that point?
Yeah, the first ones was the red and black, the green, white, and then we did a white gray. So like the white neutral gray. Okay,
yeah. So I'm like, everybody's rocking New Balances now. And then ever since that point, it's been, because even before I moved so I graduated college 2019, moved back home with my mom, and I stayed there till 2021. When I left in 2021 to move to Texas, the Salehi Water Beaded Guys had dropped. I knew it wasn't even a question. I was like, I have to get those. I don't care what resale is. I'm getting those shoes. But it was just like, again, like it was like, it almost felt like every month there was a new collab that I wanted from New Balance. So like from your perspective, being on the inside, what was it like? Like, was that time frame really true, or was it prior to that? And then like, what was like, you see everybody's rocking New Balances now?
Yeah, I'm glad you actually circled back to this, because you talk about the boom and everybody wearing it. I feel like right when I was leaving that design role in 2019 to 2020, I started this new role in November of 2020. 2020 was really the year where I think things got shot into outer space. Like I feel like that was like the turning point, which is a little bit before that 550 craze, but it was later, like right around the same time. So I think that the real kind of big boom I always talk about is 3 things. The first thing was the first 997 with ALD that we did, their first collab. Yeah. That was a big one. I think that just the relationship between Aimé Leon Dore and New Balance is like bread and butter, just in terms of, the aesthetics and the nature of the elevated, sophisticated look. Like it just fits our brand so well, and I think the consumer can see that and see through that really well, and it just feels right. So I think that anything we do with them always just feels like money, because it's just so natural. So that I think was a big one. And then Kawhi Leonard winning the NBA championship with the Raptors, and having that shot with the 4-bounce shot, and then he had the little New Balance shoe in there. So I was like our resurgence into basketball. But as a brand, that was like a just huge promo for the brand, because he was on top of the world at that point. And then thirdly being the Joe Freshgoods 992 release. February of 2020. So that was at All-Star Weekend in 2020. And I think a lot of people.
First of all, hold on. those shoes are unobtainable now.
Yeah.
StockX is treating those shoes like the Kanye West Nike collab shoes. Those shoes are unobtainable now. It's impossible. But I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, it's ridiculous.
I'm so glad I got my pair, dog. I was so happy. Which I'll get into too, like how obviously that all came about. But yeah, those three things I feel like really put us on the map. And you know, especially in that moment, like a lot of people were saying that Joe like had really, you know, stole All-Star Weekend, especially it being in Chicago. And you know, there's a certain expectation with who's supposed to own that weekend, especially for basketball. And for him to really make a statement for the brand and really make noise for us was, you know, unbelievable moment and something that we'll never forget. And that really kicked off that partnership. And I think, you know, those two are probably, you know, obviously one of the strongest two in our line currently, you know, Joe Freshgoods ALD, and just the work that we continue to do and build with them. It just gets better and better. So I think that those two things really established us in that space of, okay, like we got to start paying attention to what they're doing, because they're doing cool stuff. It makes sense. It feels right. It feels authentic. It doesn't feel like they're chasing anybody. All those sort of things are very important in terms of establishing the brand in that light. And, you know, most of that credit and praise that you give for that would have to go to Joe Grandin, who I don't know if you know well or not, but Great Grandino on Instagram.
I feel like I've seen that name.
Yeah, so he was really the one that really set charge and led and created the collaboration space early 2017. Early on, there was really no like global strategy around collaboration. It was more so we did a lot of regional things. We did a lot of things, you know, in the Asia area or in the Asia region. Some things in the Europe region, and most times it was like, you know, certain retailers would have one-off collabs. A lot of times it was on the 997 model, which you'll see like, you know, if you go back in those early days, 2016, 2015, the New Balance collabs, like it was a lot of the same models and a lot of the kind of same looks and stories. But this was the first time someone really wanted to bring a strategy behind it. Like, yo, like we're going to have this global program where these shoes release like limited sneakers. They're going to be on silhouettes that aren't always made in USA models, because that was always the thing, is we got to do the most premium thing. It's going to be on the most premium category. But it was really like this strategy and push. And you mentioned the Salehi, for example, with the 2002 R. That was a very strategic move to align him with a silhouette that we were relaunching into the market. And so bringing that energy around a new silhouette and establishing it and validating it with someone like a Salehi is really why we were able to see that success on that model. So taking that strategy and doing it with different partners and different silhouettes is really intentional and strategic. And you know, Joe really had that vision from an early point of, you know, going to get Teddy and getting ALD, going to get Joe Freshgoods, and you know, going to get Salehi early when, you know, Salehi was just coming off of Versace and it was still a new thing on who is Salehi. Like, you know, we gave him his own individual collab, and that was a big deal at the time. So, you know, all these things are very strategic and intentional in order to build a business, but also just build a category. So, so I feel like, you know, those early projects had really, you know, the consumer had really gravitated to because of how different they were. We weren't playing in anybody else's space. It was all unique to us. And the product was just great. And, you know, a lot of times we also allow the partner to be ultimately the lead creative on a project. I feel like I've heard, you know, stories of other brands and how they go about things, but we really trust the partner to lead and give their perspective and give their creative eye and vision, because we know no matter what, when you're presenting this project to the consumer, most times if it's a collaboration, whoever the collaborative partner is, their consumer really knows the brand voice well. So they know when it's coming from their favorite brand, they're going to know if it feels like them or not. If it feels like, oh, the big brand had way too much to say with this, like you can feel it, like it doesn't feel like y'all. That's the worst thing you can do. So when I talk about that authenticity, we really lean on the partner and really lean on giving them creative freedom in order to push that and to develop that. So we continue to do that with all of our partners to this day.
Yeah, I think a great point that you touched on is giving the people that you guys are collaborating with the freedom to do what they want to do. Because I think the Salehi, like, would like, I don't even know like what the material would be. I mean, I got them here. I was gonna show them later. But these, like this rough out material here, and then on the New Balance like logo itself was just like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's fire, bro. I have never seen anything like that. And like, I feel like giving the creative freedom for them to change certain things that a lot of brands wouldn't be like, you're not putting something on my logo, or you're not changing this. Like, this is like what we're known for. If you change it, then it's not us. And that's what I like that's what makes me excited about sneakers, is like seeing a shoe that I always see, like a Jordan 1 or like a New Balance, and then somebody changes it even just a little bit, even with like the protection packs that went crazy. Like the little, like it almost like a shark bite, like the little ridges, like that was dope. It was different, it was unique, and that's what I feel like everybody gravitated. Like, I mean, everybody went after that shoe. I wanted the gray pair, I couldn't get the gray pair, and I wanted the black pair, couldn't get the black pair. I was like, I'll settle for the white then. Fuck it. Like, it was like, I'm gonna grab whatever one.
I'm leaving here with something.
Literally, bro. So I definitely agree to that point that like when you give the freedom to the person, like it can really become what it's become. Like, I mean, Slay, he has like now like 7 different shoes with New Balance.
Yeah, I think we're going on what's the one we just did? 530. I think we're going on 6. I think that's the 6th one. Yep.
Yeah, and then Joe, definitely still going. So it's like, I mean, you'll think that it's a well that's gonna dry up soon, but like every time they drop like a little snippet or a corner of a shoe on Instagram, it blow up. It blow up crazy. So that's dope. That's dope. Just hearing from what I thought was like the boom, and like seeing what on the inside what y'all thought was a boom. Because I don't watch sports. So the Kawhi thing, I didn't even process that as like a thing. So that's definitely information for me. So moving to the next question, because we're talking about collabs now, we're talking about different players. What was one project that like just from start to finish, you was just like, I can't believe I'm a part of this project?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That you had the best time on? You was just like, when people see this, they go crazy. Yeah,
it's easily the conversations amongst us. Which we did in collaboration with Joe Fresh Goods. But it was really like a inline led Black experience collection, which was centered around the concept was really, coming out of the pandemic. A lot of us have been in the house for so long and away from family, away from, that human connection. And we were creating this project in the middle of the pandemic. Like this was like, probably like, I think right when I joined the team, like late 21. So early 21, late 20. And I was coming over from the design side. So part of my role, I'm still kind of a hybrid employee. So I kind of do, 85% product management. And then like at this point, 85-15 design. When I first came on board, it was really like 60% product management, 40% design. But that was something that was like really important for me to be able to maintain in my role once I had an interview with Joe and once he was bringing people onto the team. And back to that boom point, the big boom around that 2020 time, that's when the team started to expand. So believe it or not, it was like 3 people on the team as a whole. It was Joe Grondin, Kevin Trotman, and Nicole Underwood, who is no longer at the brand, but she ran the marketing department. So it was literally 3 people running the whole team from a top to bottom standpoint of creating a product, getting the product marketed, merchandising it, like everything. They were doing the whole kit and caboodle. So it was a small team, and seeing the success of the last, projects that I just mentioned, it was a big push for the brand internally to expand that team and make the team bigger. So, Joe had always known I wanted to be a PM eventually and switch over from design to product management. And the reason being was, I remember like my first design review as an intern on a design team, and everybody's kind of up in front. This isn't performance design, but everybody's up in front. Each designer goes up one by one and gives their pitch for like the new concept of the year or whatever. Like, this is my 1080 V whatever at the time, version, whatever. And, the first sketch process, this is why I chose this line. I did this for this reason, blah, blah, blah. And then they would give like a 25-minute presentation just for like the PMs that sat in the front, like the running PMs, to be like, oh, well, I like that. But like, what if we took that top line and like, curved it down a little bit? What if we took that green heel and made it orange. Like I feel like that would really take it to the next level. And I'm like, oh, so like they have like design input as well from a product manager. Like they're kind of like leading the direction and the, they're giving them the brief. They're telling them we need to make this color shoe for this season because of this. We need to. So I'm like, oh, that's really like the quarterback. I thought the designer was the one that led everything because I'm just from the outside looking in perspective. So I'm always thinking, oh, I got to come in as a designer so I can create. But I'm realizing, oh, the PM does that as well, but on a larger scale. So I'm like, yo, eventually I would love to be a product manager. I feel like that's where I need to be. And so, I thought that I was going to have to be a designer for about 5 to 10 years to like really gain that trust and that ability to be able to switch over. But the great thing about New Balance, and for anybody that's, looking for a company to join, New Balance is very big on development, growth and development. Even for interns, like I remember when I was an intern, I got the whole sandals category to myself, like to design all the sandals. Like it was like, all right, Jordan, here's your first day. So what you'll be working on is this and that. No, by the way, we're going to give you the whole sandals category. And I'm like, what? Like, this category is for me? Like I get to design the whole line? And they're like, yeah. So I'm like, as an intern, I'm like, yo, the amount of responsibility and like trust you get at New Balance is unbelievable. So they really care about developing you and growing you and giving you opportunity that's going to put you in a position for success. So I pretty much let that be known to my boss at the time, the design boss, that, eventually I want to be a PM and, eventually I want to go in this category, whatever I said or whatever I like wanted to make happen, they did their best to make it happen for me. And I feel like, again, I've heard stories on the opposite side of other brands where that wasn't the case. So eternally grateful for the things that they are able and still able to do for me to this day in terms of pushing whatever agenda that I want to become real. So Joe Granda ended up, we always like say like stole me. He didn't really steal me, but at that time when they were expanding the team, they were looking for an associate product manager. And Joe had identified me as to be like, yo, like I feel like you'd be perfect for the job. Like we're looking for someone right around your age, obviously comes from the culture and authentic standpoint. And, obviously, me growing up around shoes and being into the space, just, as a passionate thing, they were looking for somebody like that. So I fought him on it hard, I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, what about this person? What about this person? They wanted to be on the team forever. What about them? Like, why not them? And they're like, nah, bro, I think it's you. Like, I think you need to be the one to do it. So I'm like, all right. So I ended up, trusting him. I joined the team, was very nervous, trial by fire, I'm still learning to this day. Every day something new with work where I'm like, dang, I've never run into this before, but let's figure it out. So every day I'm problem solving and, so that's how it was. I just hit the ground running immediately in 2020. So I'll say that to say, remind me the question again, because I got to the big boom part because I wanted to say like how I got to the team and why. The only reason why
it was
because of the big boom, but anyway.
It was the project that you had worked on. I think you were mentioning the conversations amongst it. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that, again, my design PM hybrid ability, Kevin Trotman was the lead PM for that project. And this was our second Black Experience collection. Third, sorry. The first one we did in 2020. Second one we did in the next year, 2021. And then this was the 2022 project. So again, all those things, were kind of pre-pandemic when they were finished. So if anybody knows, product gets confirmed like 18 months. Really like it gets initiated 18 months before it releases. So like if you're releasing something in December of this year, most times you're starting that project like in August of the year prior. Like, so you need all that time to design it, get the samples made, confirm samples, get the product bought by region. So you send out stuff to the region so that they can see, hey, here's this line plan, here's what we're selling in. So it takes about 18 months for that whole process. So while we're creating this shoe, it's the dead of the pandemic. I'm living in Brighton, Massachusetts. Me and Kev we're doing all virtual work at this point. So like, we're having all these online meetings, but Kev lives close enough. So he will come over, we chop it up, have these brainstorm sessions after work on Fridays. And I just still remember them days like it was, yesterday, but, just me and him in the crib, blasting music, ideating on like the shoe, like, looking at the sample, like, dang, what if we did this? What if we, like, what about this story? Bouncing ideas off each other. So it was like really like almost like creating an album. Like it was like the best experience ever. But with that, being Joe Freshgoods being like the creative director behind this project, again, it's not a Joe Freshgoods collaboration. He always wants us to like know that we led it from a New Balance perspective, but he really was the one that championed it, put a stamp on it, and again, play that creative director role of, okay, y'all got the product right. He knows we knew what we were doing with product. He's like, I'm going to help bring it to life in a way that makes it feel authentic to us and make it feel, fire. So, working with Joe, he's the best. Like I said, he trusts us completely, but also just his eye, his aesthetic, his ability to concept and come up with marketing ideas and just package everything is phenomenal. He's one of the best in the industry. So working with him over those couple of months was just amazing. And the number one reason why I love this project overall is just the community aspect that it built, and the community aspect that it championed, because, I've done a lot of projects with big partners, you name them. And, we talk about the shoe selling out and, something going up and people looking at resale value, and that kind of runs our whole industry now. Like, as most of the things that people are excited about is this going to flip? Is this going to be something that's going to, make me some bread? Or if not, if I have it, am I going to feel good about it because it is worth, $1,200 or it's worth $1,300? If I put these on at the event, like, people gonna be like, oh, that's so like the whole aftermarket is really what makes a shoe cool or not. But this project, and we've had a bunch of those, as you know, you talked about the Joe Fresh design too just a minute ago. So it's like, we've had a bunch of those hits, and like, not to say that we're spoiled at this point, because we've seen so much of that success, especially since I've been on the team. It's like project after project is sellout after sellout after sellout, and we become, used to it. And it's just like business as usual almost. It almost feels like, Alabama back in Nick Saban days. It's like you kind of are expected to win. But when you have those sentimental wins, where this one was one where I feel like, with us building this narrative around our own people and the Black experience of, what happens when we get together and when we conversate, when we are able to build and have group therapy and, go to the barbecues, go to family events and all this sort of stuff that, feeds our soul. The things that we were missing out on, like being able to tell that story of us coming back together and doing that as a whole, was just phenomenal. And where it's gone to now today, we have a conversation experience tour of sorts that we're doing with Joe Freshgoods, where he's going around different parts of the country. We've been to Atlanta, we've been to a few different spots. We've been to Boston, he's been to the UK, Paris, and done all these conversations amongst us, talks to where he sits down with different, even Portland, Oregon, different people within the company. So he's talking with Amine, Saint from the UK, myself and some other people from internally at New Balance, and just having these conversations on a live platform, inviting people out to these events, and just really building and having that real life experience and continuing from 2022 to now. We're still kind of doing that work. So, it's a project that keeps on giving. We did it back then and started back then in the pandemic, but it's still going to this day. So I feel like, it's always easy for me to answer that question, when people ask me that, because that's still top tier, like my most favorite project I worked on. So yeah, that was a blessing.
Yeah, which is crazy, because I can't remember who I was just having this conversation with. It was on a Kloth Talk recently, and New Balance had got brought up, and I was like, what shoe? That's gonna kill me now. What shoe was that? But I was basically just accrediting like Joe Freshgood or like the Slaheys, like the way they roll out product, or like the way that you guys roll that out is always above light years what other brands are doing when they roll out. Like Slaheys, like, it's his, because like he has this like that aesthetic, that like real earthy green, and it's like this weird like twist and turn text and like all that stuff, like that's his. Like nobody can now dabble on that. That is his. Or like Joe Freshgood, the storytelling is always on point. It's always on point. And I kind of now, when I see other brands doing that, I kind of just associate it with like, oh, this is like, like when people would be like, oh, that's like the ALD aesthetic. Now when I see certain brands like do certain stories with sneakers, I'm like, oh, that's like the Joe Freshgood way they going about it. So like it's crazy hearing like how stuff kind of comes together.
Yeah, and they've been able to, establish their own look and feel themselves. Like, again, that's a credit to them. But some people might look at it, oh, they're copying New Balance, but it's really, to your point, they're copying Joe Freshco's, or they're copying Soleil, or they're copying ALD. It's like they've been able to establish their own look and feel so well that people have adopted it, and almost look at our roster like a bunch of different musicians. It's like, again, not to use the rap analogy again, but like, rappers in the 90s versus rappers today. Everybody always talks about, rappers in the 90s, you heard somebody, you knew exactly who it was. Whereas now, it's like, I hear a rapper and it's like, dang, he sounds just like old boy. He sounds just like this kid.
Or like talking about the same thing.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Everybody sound completely different. Everyone looks completely different. I think that's also one of our unique advantages. So
this is my favorite part. This is the part that I like, because I feel like I have a list of New Balances that are like, there's nothing really touching those. And those are the ones I'm currently on a hunt for. So I'm going to just show you, because the question is, what are your top 3 New Balance silhouettes? But I really want to know, like, what are your top 3 top 3 silhouettes, but then also top 3 collab shoes. Ooh, so I'll let you think on that. But let me tell you.
Yeah, let me hear yours first.
These right here.
Ooh, Stray Rats.
The Stray Rats. I've been wanting these for so long, bro. And it's not even like it's a crazy colorway. It's not even like it's super out there. Right. But this shoe, wow. I wanted this for so long and I finally got it. Like, this is crazy. I already showed this one. I knew when I saw this shoe, even though I wanted the orange pair too. But when I saw this one, I thought this colorway was a little bit more out there. It was different. It stands out a little bit more compared to the orange. But when I saw this, I didn't care what the price was. I was like, I know I'm buying a resale. So when I entered the raffle, I didn't get it. So I went straight to Grilled. And people on Grilled, they just like post a screenshot that they got it. I was like, I'm buying these shoes. And I bought them that day. And then lastly, these joints right here.
Woo,
these joints, bro. There should be no doubt that this should be in the top 10 collabs like ever. Like, this shoe is crazy. Colorway crazy. Just like this blue hit, y'all could have picked any other blue. This is the perfect blue you could have chose for this shoe. This is like the wildest shoe that I think he's done. Like, this is crazy, but this is wild. Like that.
Yeah,
of course, I love 992s. That's like a staple. This isn't one that I will say I love, but I want to test them out, and I've been meaning to buy them for a minute, but I can't find the the Moose, or what silhouette is that? I can't remember right now.
610.
I want to test that one out because I know Joe did one with that, and then I know Amine did one with that, and I wanted the Amine ones, but that's done. I don't think nobody got those. Or they not willing to sell those. And honestly, this is my first pair of the 1906. Those are fire.
Yeah, they're killer.
They're fire.
So good. They're so good. And comfortable, But that's the thing with us. No matter what you put on, it's gonna be comfortable. You can guarantee.
And I think that the cork insole is always fire though.
Yeah.
Like, the cork insole is such a smart thing. That is such a smart thing.
And it's anti-odor, or what is it? Whatever. It's good for like keeping your shoe from stinking. So it's the best. It's actually functional, so it's fire.
So as someone on the inside, let me know what's yours.
Okay. So I'll start. Are you gonna show pictures? Because
I'll have pictures.
Okay, bet. Because I'm about to say I can grab them, but let me just show the picture, or you can show the pictures for me if you can help me out. So I'll go with models first, silhouettes. My favorite silhouette of all time for New Balance. It's a sleeper. A lot of people don't even think about this shoe, but 996, made in USA, 996 OG gray.
Oh yeah, I had these in high school. They look like
574. They look like, it looks like that same shoe, but it's a step up. It's a more premium. You could tell the New Balance logo's bigger. The heel on the back has a sharper. So I'm a big design lines guy. I'm a big, it's a designer shoe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like a shoe for designers that make shoes, or it's a lot of little small nuances, but for those reasons, it's my favorite shoe. The shape, like I said, the end logo, the back, the heel, the way it goes up, like everything about it, I think is a gorgeous shoe. That colorway, the OG gray, is just phenomenal. Like that, if I had to get rid of all of my shoes and keep one New Balance, it'll probably be that, which is crazy. I know. So that I would say second model, just because of what it did for us too as well. Like I feel like you mentioned it earlier, and I got a beef with you too because I know I saw that video, and I'm still like, bruh, what's going on? Like, what is this? I'm still trying to figure out what that was. But the 550, I get it. Listen. I get the narrative.
Listen. So I had a beef.
Mm-hmm.
So when they shipped my box out, because the box was like, it was different. It wasn't like a
the old school box, the pull off.
It was a pull off. Mm-hmm. So when I got the box, it was bent in crazy, bent in crazy. I'm like, all right, it's just a box. I don't rock the box. Open the shoe, scratch marks all over the shoe.
Dang.
I reach out to them. They was like, oh, we could give you 10%, or you could just send them back. And I was just like, I mean, you basically sent me a defective thing, and like I want the shoes because I know I'm not. If I give them back to y'all, I'm gonna have to pay resale. And 10% don't really, like, I don't know. That never really 10% never works for me because like that's just tax, bro. Like, come on now. So I just had a beef, and then I ran him over and I hit him with a bat. What's crazy is, that's not even the crazy part. I sold those, and somebody bought them. And they knew what I did. Yeah, they knew what I did to him. Somebody, that's how, and I guess that's a credit to y'all, how high that shoe is, because somebody still, they had tire marks on it. They was scratched up. Yeah, somebody still bought them.
It's kind of fire. They vintage now.
Free love.
They
free love.
Distressed.
But I mean, I can't deny it. Like, again, I go outside. When you talk about just being in the real world, not just what you see online, if I step outside, I know I'm gonna see a pair of 550s. I saw some in the gym yesterday, so it's like I understand.
Right,
I understand that.
The adoption of things that people was like the 90-60 being worn in the gym. It's like these shoes we don't even intend for certain environments and places. Like they still show up there because people like they comfortable. I can walk out of the gym, be cool with them. I can be in the gym with them. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, that shit took off. Like it became lore. I think it became a classic in our space. So like, being able to have a bring back, again, establish it with a partner like ALD, get that relevance around it, and then it become a cult classic is exactly what you want. So love it. And to me, I still wear it to this day. Like that's the thing, is like it goes with some, especially a pair of big pants, like like a big cargo, and it just looks so good still. Like the shape, big shape guy. So you see everything I kind of pick is all based on shape. It's got a big fat toe or whatever. Like I'm like, nah, it's not for me. So 550.
That's 2.
Yep. And then third, 990 V4. A lot of people like the V3. Stray Rats is your V3. A lot of people like that as their favorite 990. For me, my favorite 990 is
okay. Yeah.
Obviously we've done a lot of great ones. The Joe Freshgoods collab he just did, the Keisha Blues, and the intro outro from the Belly collection. Those were the V4s as well. Some heavy hitters in that category as well. Kith did some collabs on that shoe. Not a lot of collabs on it, but in terms of just the silhouette itself, like I think it's a perfect shoe. The OG gray again is my favorite colorway, but
that's what I'm looking at. That is that do look fire.
It goes with everything, but super comfortable. That was a shoe I just remember when I got to the company, I was wearing that shoe like every day, going everywhere in it. So obviously the Keisha Blues is a great option as well. But so yeah, 990 V4. And then for the collabs, so I'll go from 3 to 1. So third favorite collab is the Jow 992 green.
Okay.
Not the mushroom, but the green 992s. And reason being was when I was a designer on the team and I would come into the office every day. Again, I'm just a sneakerhead. So I would go to Joe's desk and Kevin's desk. I'll pass by him every day. I wasn't on our team yet, but Kev would always have all the shoes for the upcoming year on his rack. Like that's how they saw everything that was coming. And I remember like he had the green gels on the top right of and I was just like, yo, like you talk about like the material on the Salehi's like 2002, like the hairy suede. I remember seeing that green suede. I had never seen green suede on a shoe like that before. Like, like you kind of just see black, like the normal gray, the normal colors, but seeing that green suede on a shoe, I'm like, yo, these are ridiculous. When did these come out? I need all parts because this shoe was phenomenal. This shoe was phenomenal. So I used to bother him about it every day, just being like, just looking at other shoes, like, yo, so that's kind of how we established our relationship. I feel like that was like the shoe that really naturally integrated me into being cool with Joe and Kev and just establishing that. Oh, they're like, oh, he actually like appreciates the product, really like just genuinely just is curious about this stuff. So that shoe caught my eye so early on. So top shoe for me. I'm wearing that. I wore it again this week. Like that's always in my rotation.
Which is crazy because I've seen that shoe go from like being $1,200 to now. I don't know if like something has changed, but like now it's down to like on resale markets, depending on where you are, down to like 600, somewhere like, you know, a little bit more obtainable. But I remember like in the pandemic, that shoe was $1,200, $1,300 without doubt.
Yep. It's funny because I think a lot of people too like gravitate towards the mushroom colorways of the Jowns, which is fair. You know, they got a whole legacy and lineage around doing the mushroom gray around almost every silhouette. So I think that's the one that people really love and gravitate towards. But yeah, for me, you know, love that shoe. And then number 2, ALD 990 V2. So the Ami Landor 990 V2. This came out with the Ma and Pa pack.
Oh, these are expensive as hell too for a minute. Yeah. They were expensive as hell for a minute.
Yeah. But that shoe, like that colorway, I don't even have a pair. So that's how you know, like this is still my, like I still, bro, I remember Teddy and team, they sent us like a bunch of like little small gifts and like things around the collection. They always do, like whether it's apparel or whatever, like these little trinkets, whatever, like kind of the accessories for each collection are. And they sent us like some special made cookies that they made for that collection, the V5 and the V2 both. They sent us like some special cookies like that and I still have the cookies like saran wrapped.
Oh wow.
I used to have the box on my shelf. I used to have everything related to the collection but the shoes because of how much I love that shoe. So still want that. That's like still on my like hit list of if I ever get a pair, I'll be so happy. So
2,500 on StockX. Just wanted to let you know.
No,
for everyone out there.
No time soon. Yeah. Hopefully they fall in my lap, but I ain't paying that. But yeah, so love that shoe. And then number 1 of all time, this is people like, what? This is Never That 2002 R.
Oh, okay.
The white and black 2002 R. That shoe. I can't say enough things. It's very plain, it's very simple, but no one loves a white leather New Balance like I do. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, they love the suede from this. They love the pig suede. They love that texture. For me, a white leather New Balance is superior. So that shoe goes with everything. That aged midsole was like when we first started to do the like aged midsole type of effect. Also, it being a South Korean based brand, like I have South Korean heritage. So, you know, it's very cool for me to be able to see them in that streetwear light and like start to learn about all the different Korean brands and things like that. And we're still working with This Never That to this day. So yeah, just a huge fan of their work. Shout out to SJ Park, who used to be there. He's no longer at the brand, but just the work and the things that they were doing with this shoe. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, bro, I need that. And I knew it was going to go with everything, and it does go with everything. So I still wear that shoe into the ground to this day. So that's my number 1 collaboration.
I was
no one thinks that for a million days.
I was never thinking This Is Never That. I almost had the opportunity to get these on Grail. Somebody was selling like a pretty worn-in pair on Grail for like $210, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cheap. And I remember that like I didn't have the money at the time, but I remember when I had the money, I went back and I just saw sold on Grail, and I was like, bro, damn, that has happened to me too many times. Yeah. I'm like, I ain't got it yet, but I know nobody go get it because nobody else like these shoes but me. And then they come back and I'm like, somebody done got these.
Yeah, somebody done got them. That's funny.
Damn, I would have never guessed that for sure. Yeah. Never would have guessed that. So the last question that I have for you, you already answered. So this one was kind of on the fly because I really like these. But when I go online and I see the reception, it's really up in the air whether people are liking them or not. But we got to talk about the loafer, the New Balance loafer, because I rock with them. And I've been seeing like some people already got some, and I was like, those are fire. But then if I go in the comments, like if Lil Jupiter or like, you know, one of these big repost pages post them, and people are like, oh, no, I'm hard pass for me, hard pass. So can you just kind of like, how did this come about? Because this is a very unique thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the way it came about really was obviously us as a brand identifying a big part of our job is to identify trends, identify what's coming in the market. And most times we're creating stuff a year and a half, 2 years out. So I think honestly, you've probably been on some mood boards for us, but like pages like yours where we're seeing the traditional, I wouldn't call you streetwear, but like obviously in my head, I'm like, yo, this is a cool kid that I follow that knows how to dress and will wear sneakers, but also will wear loafers and like will put on, some regular, like, street or a hoodie or something, some jeans and then a pair of loafers. It's like, oh, so like this formal sport, like this crossing and blurring of lines is starting to be a thing. And so, obviously, there's the Drew Joiners and things like that. They were always like, doing a lot of stuff around loafer and like the real loafers. So it's like the younger kid is really having this more grown up aesthetic. And I don't want to give New Balance a lot of that credit because a lot of times it is us though. Like when I talk about ALD and the more mature grown up aesthetic for younger people that are adopting that mature aesthetic, it was like, okay, where do we see this going for our space? And so shout out to Alana Perry, Charlotte Lee, the designer. Alana was the PM on the project, and obviously the broader team of the product creation team, identifying those things and, saying that we need something to fill this market. What can we do that's cool? What can we do that kind of influences some energy and pushes some energy in the space? And so Charlotte and Lonnie had that brilliant idea of, and Charlotte Lee, you can look at her Instagram, but she just posted the tape up for the original loafer, just having it on that original sole, that tooling, and then just doing a tape up and literally just drawing the lines on top to be like, yo, I feel like this would be fire. So a lot of times it's people internally following their instincts, following their intuition, believing in it, trusting it, and going full force with it. And, convincing people internally that this is the right decision as well. You'd be surprised on how often we're doing that as a brand, and coming up with ideas. And like we talked about the protection pack, Yu Wu, who works on the team as well, Flying Asparagus, yeah, like he's a monster, and like he just is doing a lot of that too with that protection pack. It was, I think this is a fire way for us to extend the life of this silhouette, and I think this is a cool thing that people will like. And he pitched it internally, the team agreed, and the rest is history. So same thing with that. But it was funny because when I first saw it, the sample internally, I was like, yo, this is like, you kind of laugh when you first see it. like damn, like, this is crazy. Like, man, we're really gonna do this? Like, this is like a loafer sneaker. Are we really gonna do this? Like, and go forward with it? But you can't deny, like, I knew it would be polarizing. It's like some people, especially some people internally, I think the older crowd was like, no way. Like everybody that's been at the company for 20 plus years, they're probably 50, 60 years old. They're like, I'm not wearing this because they're like, it's just not for me. It's kind of weird. But all the younger kids, especially the fashion leaning kids that really understand the nuances of being different. And it's just something when you see it, it's just they gravitate towards it. So we got that early read internally, seeing when partners came in and saw it, they were all just like, yo, what is this? Like, I need this. This is unbelievable. And so seeing the reception, we kind of knew. It was like, oh, this might be a monster. And then when it got posted, it was the exact polarization that we talked about. Like, either you hate it or love it. But I feel like a lot of people in those comments are like the OG sneakerheads. Like a lot of the people that grew up certain silhouettes, most times they came from that basketball era, and they're just, it's a new shift that a lot of people are okay with coming over and shifting into this new space and having these different types of silhouettes. But a lot of those other older sneakerheads are like, I think they're just so stuck on what shoes are supposed to be and how they look. A lot of them are probably still pin rolling their jeans. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like that's a whole
their jeans.
Yeah. It's a whole different community. It's like, nah, dog, it couldn't be me. But the kids that get it and the people that get it, the fashion people that get it, they get it. And I feel like it's definitely a fashion leaning shoe. But eventually it's going to be so ubiquitous that, everybody's going to wear it. But yeah, that shoe is a monster, and we're very excited with the reception. So it's amazing.
That shoe is gas. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's crazy because for a minute I fell off rocking sneakers. Like they were like, it was like a solid year. I was only rocking boots or loafers. Mm-hmm. And I would say this year I got a little bit more back into sneakers. I feel like there's like a lot of sneakers that were like calling to me this year. So this definitely fits that, like, you know, I was only rocking boots and loafers. Now I'm mashing up, like, I'm liking sneakers again. So this is a sneaker loafer. I'm like, oh, that's fucking fire. What the fuck? And it's like, also, what other shoe did this? That's the thing. I'm like, I like unique, different things that stand out. And whenever I look at images of the shoe, which is like, I got to pull it up on my site. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is a wild shoe.
And let me ask you this really quick, just based on that, because, you know, obviously we're always thinking about what's next. And, you know, I think we've been hearing just a lot of, like, you know, editorials or like people just talking about, you know, our sneakers dead. And you just talked about how you have been wearing loafers and boots for the last however so long. Like, what is it going to take for you to get back into sneakers? What do you think is lacking? Like, why did you go away from it? All those sort of things. Is it just a lack of creativity? What was it that made you?
You want the real answer?
Yeah, I do.
The real answer is I felt like I got sneaker burnt out. Like 2020, 2021, 2022. I was like, it's like every week there's a new sneaker collab, there's a new sneaker this, there's a new sneaker that. And this is when, like, you know, I would say 2021, 2022, people are still kind of heavily wearing Jordans, and like they were still leaning going towards New Balance, but like people are still rocking Jordan 1s heavily and stuff. And it just like, it was no longer I was able to attain certain things. Like certain collabs would be very limited. And it's just like, once you just stop having access to certain stuff, it just becomes like, it's kind of like whatever now. Like, I'm not about to spend $1,500 on every pair of shoes that I want. Like, that's out. Like, I'm getting to that age where, like, you know, I'm not a kid anymore, so I have like bills and stuff. So it's like, I can't. That's financially, that doesn't make sense for me. So like certain collabs that I really wanted, they're unobtainable. So I was like, all right, let me switch to boots, because I know I can go to boots, and like people still rocking boots, but people not really rocking boots. And there's certain boots that I really like the Yeezy season 1s. I got the ones that Soleil worked on, the season 3s. Like, those are dope. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to boots then. Like, sneakers are kind of just whatever, and like I'm not paying resale prices. I'm not going to go through all these shoes just to get certain shoes. I'm just like, I'm cool. Like, it was a burnout. I'm like, there's too many sneakers dropping, and there's the ones that I really want I can't get, and I'm like, I'm not gonna pay $800, $900 for every pair of shoes I want.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm hearing the same thing. I get that. Accessibility is everything. So, you know, that's what we try to leverage. Obviously, you got to have that balance of, you know, making things that not everyone can get, or making them hard to get still, because that's, you know, part of the chase. But then having that second offering of a loafer or something like that, where it's like, you know, there's the collabs and stuff, and maybe you missed out on this collab, but we have all this other stuff in line coming that is just as good. And so I think that that's really the reason why we've been able to be so successful over the past years in terms of sustaining our energy, is being able to have that secondary offering to what is unattainable. So I get that.
I think there's another level to burnout as well, because I'm not saying, oh, somebody gets a silhouette, let's say, and then, you know, it's hype, everybody wants a sneaker. Because I like to take the example of Travis Scott Jordans, like the Jordan 1s, whether it be the low tops or the hard tops. I personally believe, I know people still buy them, I personally believe those are burnt to the ground. They've done too many colorways. It's no longer exciting. It's just like, when it first dropped, that first brown pair, it was crazy. But like, they have like 6 other colorways, and he has like 3 other silhouettes, and it's just like, the hype for it is no longer there for me. And like, certain companies, I'm not going to get into all of them, like certain companies will use one person to carry that brand, and it's just like, I'm tired of seeing that shoe now. And I think that's how I felt with the 550. Like, to be honest, like, I feel like the 550 kind of got like, it had the ALD, then it had, you know, other people collab on it, but then it just like, I kept seeing them. I was just like, again, I like unique, I like different, I like to stand out. So like, once I start seeing way too many people doing it, I'm just like, I have to drift away from it. So that's like a personal standpoint from it.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know, always on to the next. So
yeah. I mean, shoes definitely ain't running out. This is like a renaissance for sneakers right now. I don't think sneakers are dying. I think Complex have put out that thing that like, the sneaker market isn't, you know, healing. It's just it's just going to different silhouettes or different shoes or different companies, because it was always Jordan, Adidas for so long. But now it's like, I think they said Asics was like the most bought shoe on like the secondary market or something like that. New Balance, of course, are like, even what people are doing with Saucony is just crazy to me. Like, people are just, there's a lot more people collabing with shoes and a lot more fresh ideas coming to sneakers. So I don't think they're dead. They're just, you know, people have like, I fight nostalgia, and people like, oh, I used to stand in line and wait for shoes, and I used to have to call up to 3 different, like, you know, it just changes how I think, you know.
Yeah, that renaissance is everything. Everybody's closet is so diverse now.
Yeah.
Everybody has almost every brand in their closet now. It used to be a different way, you know? So it's cool to see. Cool to see.
But man, bro, this is crazy. This is, I didn't think we was gonna make it this long in this conversation. This is fire. This is fire.
Always appreciate it.
I appreciate you jumping on here, sharing your wealth of knowledge that you have, you know, about your personal life, but also working at New Balance, and just hearing your stories. I think, again, everybody wants to talk to the top of the top dogs, and I think, you know, I always like to, the fact that we've been mutuals, I think your story is just as great as, you know, the people who are at the top of the food chain, because you've been a part of those teams. So I definitely want to thank you for just, you know, Saturday. You know, we here on a Saturday, y'all. You could be out somewhere, going somewhere, but you spent the hour with me, so I appreciate that, bro.
Already, brother. Great talking to you, Greg. We'll be in touch.
But without further ado, like I always do, I'll catch you on the next one.
But I love the way you work it. Hey, I love the way you work it.